British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Welcome back to The Crow. My name is Tammy Mack, and this is your 2 o'clock news update. Today is the last day for advance voting in the provincial election. Elections BC estimates a record number of over 778,000 people have already voted. BC NDP leader David Eby and BC Conservative leader John Rustad both have campaign events on the island. David Eby is starting in Nanaimo this morning before heading to Ladysmith, Duncan, and Victoria. John Rustad will also be in Nanaimo this evening. BC Greens leader Sonia Furstenau is also heading to the island and will be campaigning in Victoria. Both the Greens and the NDP were critical of the Conservatives' cost plan released yesterday. David Eby is concerned that Rustad's plan could involve privatizing healthcare, warning voters we could have a, quote, American-style user-pays healthcare system in British Columbia. Eby once again says this will be a tight race and every vote matters.
In this election, every vote counts. It is a very tight election. I'm not taking anything for granted. And being physically present, showing up wherever I can, talking to as many people as possible, that's the work that I did before the election, during the election, and it's what I'll do after the election as well.
Iconic environmentalist David Suzuki has endorsed the BC Green Party. Suzuki says the Green Party treats nature as the foundation of human existence and values nature above politics and economics. Suzuki also says axing the carbon tax would be a mistake if we want to reduce greenhouse gases and tackle climate change. Meanwhile, the BC Teachers Federation and the Canadian Union of Public Employees British Columbia released a joint statement today encouraging members to vote NDP because their platform includes having a full-time counselor in every school, an education assistant in every kindergarten to grade 3 classroom, and affordable before and after school care. Vancouver police say a man has been charged after a tourist was randomly assaulted near Canada Place on Sunday morning. The 35-year-old woman was repeatedly punched and kicked unprovoked. She was taken to hospital with minor injuries. VBD arrested the man shortly thanks to witness reports and video evidence. The 30-year-old suspect is facing one charge of aggravated assault. Records show the suspect had been previously found guilty of assault following several incidents in 2022 and 2023. The Chilcotin Nation has finished repatriating 60 historical artifacts from the Museum of Vancouver. Ancestral belongings including coiled root baskets, stone tools, a knife sheath, and a pair of snowshoes are being returned to Chilcotin territory after more than 100 years. Chief Joe Alphonse says the artifact showcases people's strength and creativity using natural materials. Museum of Vancouver CEO Mauro Vescara says returning the objects is a crucial step in the museum's reconciliation efforts. The latest on the Canada-India affairs, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau claims he has a list of conservatives who are at risk of or are participating in foreign interference. Trudeau says he told Canada's spy agency to brief Pierre Poilievre, but the Conservative leader won't go through the necessary security checks to get clearance.
Nobody in his party, not him, and nobody in a position of power knows the names of these individuals and can take appropriate action.
Poilievre has said previously that getting the security clearance would prevent him from speaking publicly about what he learns at security briefings. Sushant Singh, a researcher of India's foreign policy, says the U.S. sees New Delhi as a strategic partner.
Many people believe that the current US administration, the Biden administration, in trying to look at the larger strategic picture, which is vis-a-vis China and the Indo-Pacific, has overlooked important transactional aspects and red lines which should not be crossed.
Canada's border agency has recovered nearly 2,000 stolen vehicles this year. The Canadian Press's Naira Ahmed has more.
Transport Minister Anita Anand says the majority were found in Quebec, as many stolen vehicles are being routed from there in Ontario through the Port of Montreal and then shipped overseas. Earlier this year, the federal government launched an action plan involving local and international police agencies and vehicle manufacturers to address the record rates of vehicle thefts. Year over year, the Insurance Bureau of Canada says claims for stolen vehicles are down 19%, although earlier this month it reported the issue is trending significantly above historic averages. Naira Ahmed, The Canadian Press.
Statistics Canada reports over 15% of Canadian households experienced food insecurity in 2022. Naira Ahmed of the Canadian Press has more.
That's based on data from the Canadian Community Health Survey. The agency says the increase comes after food insecurity was relatively stable from 2017 to 2021, making an over 9% jump since 2017 and over 11% jump since 2018. The agency is also reporting an increase in the severity as more households reported moderate or severe food insecurity in 2022. It notes the prevalence of household food insecurity was slightly lower and stable during the pandemic years. Naira Ahmed, The Canadian Press.
The Canadian government has announced the creation of the Canadian Water Agency. Reporter Ethan Van Dop tells us what this means.
Fresh water is one of Canada's most precious natural resources, with 7% of the world's fresh water supply located in Canada, which is why ensuring its protection is an important issue to Canadians, according to the new Canadian Water Agency. Some of the agency's responsibilities include strengthening freshwater management, working closely with partners to deliver major elements of the Freshwater Action Plan, and leading the development of a national freshwater data strategy. 8 bodies of water of national significance will receive funding from the agency, including the Fraser River and Lake Winnipeg, one of the world's largest bodies of fresh water. Ethan Van Dot, BCIT's The Crow.
And Ethan is joining us live in studio now. Ethan, what is the purpose of the new agency?
Well, the agency is designed to enhance the protection of Canada's fresh water supply through collaboration federally and with provinces, territories, and Indigenous people. The agency will also work closely in collaboration with other partners to deliver on key parts of the federal freshwater action plan.
And what are some of the key points in the action plan?
The action plan's main goal is to support region-specific action that restores and maintains water quality and ecosystem health. Some of the key points include funding ecosystem monitoring and protection, scientific research, and collaborative decision-making at different levels of the government.
Thank you, Ethan. Vancouver Fashion Week preparations are well underway for the women presenting as part of Enterprising Women Making Art, or EMA. The show is more than a celebration. Reporter Grace Miller has more.
The women-owned businesses of UMA are gearing up to showcase their work in Vancouver Fashion Week. Part of Atira's Women's Resource Society, UMA works to help women facing violence, poverty, and mental health struggles become more financially independent. This annual event offers a unique opportunity for these women to gain exposure, as it is the second largest fashion show in North America. Atira x UMA have been part of Vancouver Fashion Week since 2015. Their show is on the 4th day of Fashion Week on October 25th. For BCIT's The Crow, I'm Grace Miller.
The 2025 BC Sports Hall of Fame class was announced today. Reporter Keenan Tregaskis has the details on what this induction means for athletes.
Sticking to the same format, the Hall of Fame inducted 5 athletes, 3 coaches or builders, a team, a sports pioneer, a broadcaster, and WAC award winner. Among the 5 athletes inducted into the Hall of Fame today was Nathan Hirayama, a former rugby player. Hirayama admits he did not expect to be inducted this year.
Oh man, it's a huge honor to be inducted. I was shocked when I got the call a few weeks ago. And yeah, it's a really proud moment for me and my family. Hopefully the rugby community. I know there's a lot of the guys I really looked up to growing up are in this Hall of Fame, so it's just a huge honor to be included with those guys.
Hirayama was also the flag bearer for Canada at the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo. Keenan Tregaskis, BCIT's The Crow.
And over to weather. It is currently sunny at 14 degrees. We're expecting it to go down a little bit to 8 degrees later tonight. Rain is in the forecast for tonight and a risk of thunderstorm. Also tonight, a supermoon will be lighting up the sky today and tomorrow. Astronomers say a comet will also be whizzing by. This is a rare 2-for-1 occasion. The comet will be visible with just the naked eye. The supermoon will return next month, November 15th. So astronomers are advising skywatchers to catch the comet because it may never return. That was your 2 o'clock news update. My name is Tammy Mack, and you're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
Perfect. Okay. Hello and welcome to For the Record. I'm Isabella Calisi. October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month, where we look at accessibility in the workplace. According to Statistics Canada, more than 1/3 of employed people with disabilities had unmet accommodations in 2022. Today, I'm joined by Nathan Clement, a Paralympic bicyclist and swimmer. He had a Paralympic bicyclist and swimmer. He had a stroke at the age of 2, which caused him to lose mobility on one side of his body. Today, we're going to talk about his experience with accessibility in the workplace. Nathan, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Isabel, for having me on today.
So my first question for you is, what are the types of things that you find are often overlooked in the workplace in terms of accommodations or accessibility?
I think the biggest thing, and I've had my own experiences with this, is just that everyone's able to do the same job, everyone's able to do the same tasks, but there are different ways of doing that. That might be not the conventional way, but just understanding different accommodations that are needed. That, for example, in the restaurant industry, which I used to work in, I worked for a couple major chains. One of them did not account or did not make it accessible for me with like carrying a lot of trays, being able to bring and provide stuff to different tables, where another one made sure I had accommodation. So it was easier for me and it was easier for the customers and for the people in the restaurant to be able to get their food quicker and easier. So it's just different places will look to accommodate, will look to think outside of the box, but other places are still stuck in old ways. And it's just trying to navigate that system and giving many people, many brands the opportunity to understand that if you make these small changes, it can really benefit you as a company, but also benefit all the coworkers and all the patrons around.
Absolutely. What kind of accommodations did that one restaurant give you that like helped you at the workplace?
They offered me a dolly cart, so I was able to bring the food around, so I would be able to carry more than one tray or more than a couple plates of food or a couple drinks. So they'd be able to carry like 6 or 7 things, which obviously makes the service time quicker for everyone, but also makes it easy that I can go over to a table. I can make sure they're doing okay. I can communicate. I can have a conversation with them and just improve that experience instead of me running back and forth to the kitchen to grab a plate and then come back. So it just made it so much easier, and as well as they let me have a chair behind the desk. So if my legs got tired, because I have fatigue in my legs, especially if I'm working for 7-8 hours on hard surfaces, I need to sit down for a brief second. And it's not like I'm not working, I'm right by the till. So I'm able to take orders, I'm able to do whatever I need to do in that task, but I'm able to take that pressure off my legs. So it's small little things like that that make adjustments for me, but also can help someone else take on another role and really help and support as a team. Because that's the big thing with like restaurants or so many other companies, is it's a team environment and everyone's there or should be there to help and support each other. So those are some of the big differences that can be made. If you're helping one person out, it can really help the whole team succeed at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And along with those kind of accommodations, I know now you work in media, so you're probably like, other than like being on like scene for things, you're probably in the office a lot and that kind of thing. What kind of accommodations do you expect from like a workplace there?
I'm very fortunate. A lot of the work I do is all remotely from my apartment back in Vancouver. And with that, as soon as I started, even as an apprentice or an apprenticeship with Accessible Media Inc. or AMI TV, they were so good in allowing me to give time that I could go train during the day and just giving me more of a time kind of flexibility, just so I'd still be able to get the work done, but I'd also be able to train and focus in on my cycling. So with AMI, they are a network that focuses on adaptive or accessible media. So a lot of like, even for myself, I had to make a lot of different changes to how I wrote different scripts, because you have to keep in mind, you're going to have people with various different disabilities viewing the program. So making sure people who would be viewing it or listening to it on the audio aspect may not be able to see. So trying to make sure scripts are going to be well designed and well put together that they'll be able to pick up and follow what's going on in the story. So there's some accessibility and some adaptive stuff I had to do, but also the company I worked for was really good at making sure I was able to balance my training and able to balance my work time. So they did a lot of adaptations in that regard for me.
That's wonderful. Are there any kind of other complaints that you've heard from maybe like other people in the community with disabilities that like you're kind of like, hey, this is a common issue that nobody's talking about?
I feel like one of the biggest ones, and I've gone through it in my own life, and I know so many others have as well, is that a lot of companies, a lot of brands see disability as a deterrent. Where I had one company, and I'm going to keep their name out of it, going to keep the people's name out of it, but someone told me about 4 or 5 months after I worked at the spot, said, when we first saw you get hired, we thought you were a joke hire. We thought you were a joke hire by a manager that was leaving. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, because at that time I was already a Paralympian. I was already won an international medal for Canada in swimming. And to be told that was a big, like, it really stung. But I know there's so many other people who've been in similar situations to that. And the only way I've had to break that barrier and break that standard is by my work ethic. And that's a tough thing for so many people who might just be doing their first job. They might be 15, 16, 17 years old, or they just recently had an accident or recently had an injury. They're trying to get back into the workforce. That's a standard, and that's something that no one should ever be told. And that's something that no one should ever have to go through. So I feel like there's still a lot of stigma around disabilities in the workplace, but having conversations like this and having months like this, Disability Workplace Awareness Month, is huge in just trying to beat that and realizing that everyone is adaptable. Everyone can adapt, and there's situations that can really help the company go forward. Because that's one of the biggest things I've learned. And this is another side of the conversation too, where you don't want to use disability in the inspiration, wow, you're amazing aspect, but using disability in the way of, okay, they're just being adaptable. They're just trying to figure out a way to, one, make sure that they're earning a living, but two, also help the workplace they're in too. So there's that balance of it where you need to accommodate. We also don't want to glorify it and make it bigger than what it is. And that's something that I've been very lucky with different brands I've been with, and especially the last major restaurant I worked with, they were really good at making adaptable for me, and just the conversations that I had and just the impacts that it took on like the patrons in the restaurant was huge at the end of the day. And it really helped the restaurant and really helped us have great conversations with patrons and great conversations with staff and build those kind of relationships and get customers coming back time and time again, just because there's cool stories and there's cool people. Like, everyone who sits down at a restaurant is a very unique person, but there's so many different aspects of what goes on into the workplace. And the biggest one, as I said at the start, is just understanding that adaptation is not the end of the world. Adaptation is something that everyone needs to do in their life, but just with disability, there's different ways of working around it, and there's different ways of looking outside the box that can really help make a difference for the worker, for the coworkers, and for the company as a whole.
Absolutely, very well put. And since we have a bit of the time here, I just wanted to further expand this into just accessibility in Vancouver. I saw in your bio that you live in West Vancouver. Is that correct?
I'm from West Vancouver. I recently moved to Kitsilano.
Oh, nice. Well, how do you find accessibility in the Kitsilano area? Because I know that's probably like a good amount of hills.
Yeah. Like West Vancouver, pretty well, like anywhere in Vancouver, you're gonna find hills, no matter where you go. For me, accessibility in this area is fairly fine. For myself, there is little things with like bus stops not having like benches or having seats for people to sit down on, but outside of that, one of the biggest is, as I'm a cyclist, is just accessible roads. And I feel like Vancouver, compared to other parts of Canada, is the gold standard but there's obviously other parts and other areas of the city around like construction sites, around just fully closed off bike lanes. They can often be very tricky for someone like me on a tricycle style bike. So there's still needs of accessibility, but for movement, for a lot of other things outside of cycling, I feel like Vancouver is a gold standard.
That's fantastic. And that tends to be our time here. Thank you so much for joining me today, Nathan. This has been very interesting.
Thank you, Isabella.
That was Nathan Clement, local Paralympian. I'm Isabella Cleese, and you've been listening to For the Record on BCIT's The Crow. I'll just stop recording here.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Teresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to